What's up, guys? Welcome to the next live stream on my channel. Guys, today I'm so happy to be here because today we are going to be talking about EQ. Now, EQ is one of those things that all audio engineers need to know about because the thing is, if you're new to EQ, today's live stream, we're going to be talking about EQ, and if you're a beginner to it, I'm going to be walking you through the steps and telling you everything you guys need to know about EQ, because EQ is such a powerful tool in mixing. So guys, in this live stream, I have a chat box right up here on the screen that you guys can probably see. So guys, go ahead, leave the comments down below, leave them in the chat, because guys, during this whole live stream, I'm going to be interacting with you guys, and literally you guys can ask me any questions that you guys want on EQ. So guys, go ahead, leave them in the chat. I'll answer you guys, talk with you guys, and interact with you. So let's start talking about EQ, because that is why we are here. So first thing I want to point out to you guys is that I'm not in Logic. So literally, I'm not in Logic. I'm using GarageBand because, guys, I'm actually not in my home studio right now. I'm actually in somewhere else. I don't want to say where I am, sorry. But literally, I'm out of town. So literally, I'm in GarageBand using my laptop. So EQ, that's what we're going to talk about. Like I said, leave them in the comments down below in that chat room and we'll talk. Okay, so let's jump right into the EQ. So pretty much, if you're new to EQ, this is what an EQ graph looks like. So the first thing I want to tell you about is I just want to point out what everything is on an EQ. So the first thing that I'm going to point out is this line right in the center of the EQ is called your zero line. Now your zero line is literally what is going to separate your frequencies from when you boost a frequency or when you cut a frequency. And then these up here are your bands. So your bands are going to allow you to boost your frequencies and to cut your frequencies. So your first band here is actually your high pass filter. Now your high pass filter is going to allow you to cut out the low ends of your EQ and literally just clean up that low end, that muddiness, that rumble down there that just doesn't sound good. Because think about it, if you don't use high pass filters in your mix, you're literally going to get all that rumble down there and it doesn't sound good. And then literally it just keeps going up, so you can just choose any of these bands, click on them, and then you literally can boost or cut your frequencies. Okay? So the next thing what I want to do is tell you about is your numbers. Now, a human ear can hear from 20,000 hertz to 20 hertz to 20,000 hertz. That's what a human ear can hear. So this whole zero line is what you can hear in your human hearing. So pretty much all from 20 hertz to 20,000 hertz. When you pick a band up here and you boost, you're literally sweeping through 20 hertz to 20,000 hertz. So literally that is the frequencies you want to hear. So okay, what we're going to talk about now is the dB. Now guys, dB stands for decibels. So literally what you're doing is when you boost a band, you're literally going to go from, you're boosting it, and then these numbers on the side are your decibels of how high you are actually going to boost. So literally you can boost, when you bring your EQ up, when you're boosting something, you're literally boosting about 3 dB, 6 dB, and you can tell how high you boost from these numbers on the side, right here. All right. So now what I want to do is actually go back to the zero line and actually tell you guys and walk you through that. And then what we'll do is go through the rest of the things talking about those too. Okay? So let's start with the zero line, talk a little bit about that, and like I said, we'll go through the rest after. Okay, so like I said, this is your zero line. Okay? Now, what I want you guys to do is actually think about the zero line as a ceiling in your house. So you know how in a ceiling in the house you can't walk through it because it's solid, right? And you can't see through it, right? So think of the zero line as a ceiling in your house. You can't go through it, it's solid, it's hard, and it's impossible to just crawl through it unless you cut a hole in it, right? Well, today, literally, I want you to think of that zero line as like a blockage. Now, guys, I've done tons of videos on my channel about EQ, so go check those out too. So, pretty much, the zero line is a ceiling. And when you boost a frequency, a band, one of these bands, let's say this band right here, you're going to bring up, right? Let's say once you boost that frequency, that band, you're literally letting that frequency come through the mix more, right? But when you take this band and you bring it below the zero line, that zero line is acting as a blockage. It's acting as a ceiling, like I said, because once you take this band and bring it below the zero line, that frequency you cut out, it can't go back up above the zero line because literally the zero line is acting as a blockage. And once it's acting as a blockage, that frequency you pulled out is not going past the zero line again, because once it's below the zero line, it's out of your mix for good. So literally think of the zero line as your blockage, as your shield and your ceiling. Think of it that way. That once you bring those bands below the zero line, whenever you find a frequency that sounds bad and you bring it below that zero line is your shield. It's a blockage, a ceiling. Because once you bring it down there below the zero line here, it's not coming back up. So I want you to think of that as your protection shield, okay? So the idea to, when you find a bad frequency, you're going to take this up, sweep around the frequency spectrum all down the zero line here. And then once you find something that sounds honky, that sounds bad, you just don't want it in your mix, take that band, cut it. But literally, when you find that frequency, make sure you stay in that frequency range. Make sure it doesn't move over like that. So once you find something, make sure you stay on that frequency and you bring it down. And then once it's below this zero line here, it's not coming back up, like I said. Alright guys, so now we talked about cutting frequencies just now. Now let's talk about boosting frequencies, okay? So let me just bring my chat box up again, guys. So if any of you log on, literally I will know so that you guys can actually chat with me, alright? Okay, so now we're going to talk about boosting the frequencies, okay? So when you boost a frequency, you're literally going above the zero line, right? You're right above that zero line. So what you're doing is minimize this. And literally what you're doing is you're going to take that band and boost it above that zero line right there. So what I want you to think about now is whatever frequencies sound good above the zero line, that's where the sweet spot is going to be. You want to actually boost it above the zero line when you want to make something come through the mix more. You want it to actually pop through. So one tip I want to give you right now is when you start mixing, you want to actually start your mix with cutting out all of the bad frequencies first. Literally, when you start EQing your mix, I want you to literally just start with all the bad frequencies first, cut them all out. Now, the reason I want you to start doing that first is because once you cut out all the bad frequencies, the thing is, you're literally going to be able to hear the good frequencies a lot better, which is going to make your life a lot easier to boost the frequencies that are good, because you're going to be able to hear them a lot better once you cut all the bad ones out. So guys, that's what's really going to help you out a lot. So make sure you do that tip. Oh, and guys, throughout this entire live stream, make sure you're writing down these tips on a piece of paper, because these are tips you guys need to know. Alright, let's check our live chat again, guys, and just see if any of you are on. Alright, nobody yet. But guys, like I said, leave your questions down below, because I'm here to chat with you guys, okay? Alright, so now what I want to do is we talked about the zero line, right? Now what I want to do is actually talk about these bands up top here, okay? So pretty much, let's say this. When you're mixing, you're not going to take one of these bands like here and like move it like all the way over here, right? Because that would just be pointless, right? So pretty much when you're mixing, let's say you're mixing the low end in your mix, you would literally use a high pass filter right down here, or you would use this band here because this is your low end. So literally what I want you to know is, don't just take a band, bring it up, and scoot it over. Pick a band that's in that area. So like this band and this band would be for your low end, from like 20 hertz to 100. Then the mid-range would be from 200 to 500, these two bands. This band would be for that high end, 1K to 2K, and then up. So that's how an EQ works for the bands, okay? Now what I want to do is actually go through and tell you what each band is, okay? So this band is your high pass filter. Your high pass filter is literally going to cut all those low ends out. Like I said at the beginning of the stream, cuts all the low ends out. So let me show you how a high pass filter works. So you're going to click on it, and the low end of your mix is literally from like 20 hertz to 100 hertz. So literally, and below. But below 20 hertz, nobody can hear below 20 hertz, because a EQ only goes from 20 hertz to 20,000 hertz. That's the human ear hearing. So a way a high pass filter works is you're going to grab it right in here, this red dot, and bring it down. Now, you see how it made like a curve here? Wherever you bring this curve, and wherever the red is right here, all of that area down there is going to be blocked out, because it's cut out, because all of that down there is the low end. It's all rumble, it's all muddy, it doesn't sound good. So that's what a high pass filter is cutting out all that low end down there, because it's rumbly and it's just going to make your mix sound bad. So make sure you're using high pass filters. The idea to a high pass filter is to literally bring the high pass filter up until you start to lose clarity. And then once you start to lose clarity, bring it back down until you start to hear the clarity again. And then once you start to hear the clarity again, that's how you know you actually are at a good spot. And once you stop to hear rumbliness and bassness, then you're at a good range too. Okay, so that's what a high pass filter does. Now this one here, this is a low shelf. This, if you want, you could use this on like a kick drum. You could use this on a bass guitar, just to give your kick or your bass a little bit more punch, okay? Or a little bit more rumble, just to make it pop through more. Then this one right here, this is a bell EQ. These EQs you can just bring up to boost your frequencies, or you can literally take these and cut them below to cut frequencies. So when you see bands like this that look like this, that's how you know it's called a bell EQ. Like I said, leave any questions you have, leave them in the chat. I will be talking to you guys. Alright? Any questions? Alright, guys. So, like I said, the bell EQs. This EQ down here is the same thing. It looks like this one. But this one's a low shelf, this one's a high. Okay? Now this one at the end looks like this one. So this is your high pass filter, and this is your low pass filter. Now the crazy thing that I always thought that was weird about EQ is that this is your low end, but this is your high end. But the thing is, this is called a low pass filter, and this is called a high pass filter, which I always thought was weird. But then over the years, I started to realize why it's actually like flipped like that. I'm going to tell you why right now. The reason why this is called your low pass filter and this is called your high pass filter is because when you use a high pass filter down here, you're letting the highs in your EQ come through when you cut the low end out. And then when you use a low pass filter in the high end, you're letting the lows come through. So the thing is, it's backwards. It's kind of flipped. So when you think about it, it's kind of confusing at first, but once you learn it, it's simple. Okay, guys? Guys, I sure hope you are enjoying this live stream so far. Let me know in the comments, in the chat, because guys, I am chatting with you guys. Leave them in the chat below and we can talk. Any questions you have about EQ, let me know in the chat. Alright, I'm here to help you guys with any questions you guys have. Alright, so also guys, like I said, there's tons of videos that I've done on Golden Productions, my channel, down below on my channel. So make sure you guys go check those videos out too, because guys, they're really great. Okay guys, so we talked about the zero line. We talked about how you can hear the frequencies and literally what an EQ chart goes from 20 hertz to 20,000 hertz. We talked about the zero line. We talked about all that. The next thing I want to do is talk about the dB and how high you boost your frequencies and how low you cut your frequencies. So what I'm going to do is grab a band here. I'm going to grab a bell curve like we hear, and I'm going to start bringing it up. And what I want you guys to do is look at this thing right down here. You see where my mouse is? I want you to look at this gain here. And watch it as I bring up this band, EQ. As you bring the band up, you see how it's getting higher, the numbers, the gain knob right here. And literally you see that plus sign right there. It might be a little hard to see on the screen, but it has a plus sign, and right now we're at 8.5 dB, which stands for boosting at 8.5 dB decibels, because dB stands for decibels. So the plus sign means that we're boosting because we're above the zero line. But as I keep bringing that up, it keeps getting higher and higher. So now we're at 20 dB. Now, the way I like to work when I like to mix around, let's say, 3 or 6 dB. That's the range. Now, the reason I like to actually stick to that range is because it's not too much gain, it's not too much, boosting. It's just the right amount, 3 to 6 dB, just that right amount. If you go higher than that, what's going to happen is you're going to literally overload a track, and because every time you boost, a frequency, you're adding volume to your mix. Because the thing is, because the thing about an EQ, this is something I forgot to tell you guys in the beginning of the live stream. An EQ is basically just another smart volume fader. That's pretty much what an EQ is. That's all it is another smart, like a smarter volume fader. And pretty much every time you boost an EQ, you're literally adding volume to your mix. And the reason why I literally stick to 3 dB decibels is because that is literally the right amount to just boost and cut. So pretty much I stick to that range because it's the right amount of volume. It's not going to overload your signals. It's not going to take away too much. It's literally just the right amount to stick to. So every time you are literally boosting an EQ, you're adding volume, and every time you cut out a frequency, a band, you're actually cutting out volume. So pretty much, like I said, an EQ is just a smarter volume fader that you can do a lot more with in your mix. Alright, so let's check the chat. Alright. Okay guys, so that's pretty much EQ. Remember, write that down. EQ is literally a smarter volume fader. So make sure you write that down. And make sure you're writing all these tips down because these tips are so important for you guys. They're so important to learn, to use when you're mixing. And guys, if you're new to EQ, literally write these tips down because these are going to help you down the road. All of these things. These are things you need to know about mixing because they're so important. Okay? So let's go over literally what we just talked about. We talked about the zero line, that it's literally acting like a shield, that literally once you cut a frequency, you cannot go back up. And once you boost it, it comes right through the mix. We talked about that. We talked about the bands, what each band does down the whole entire frequency spectrum, right? Through the whole chart, we talked about every single band, the high pass filters, the low pass filters, the shelves, the bell curves, everything. That's all. And then we talked about the decibels on the side here. How you add gain and how you can cut gain too in your mix, the volume. So literally, like I said, write all these tips down, guys. These tips are so important and they're so helpful, guys. I hope you literally learned a lot. And guys, remember, any questions you have, leave them in the chat. Let me know what you guys literally think. Because guys, I'm doing these videos for you. You guys are amazing, guys. And guys, we just hit 433 subscribers, guys. Guys, I just want to thank you guys and give all of you guys a huge shout out because guys, without you, I would not be able to do this. You guys literally are amazing. You guys are incredible. So guys, give this video a big thumbs up if you're enjoying it and you guys learned a lot about EQ because I'm here to help you guys. Leave them in the comments. Write me in the chat right now, guys. Let me know what you think because guys, this is amazing. Alright guys, I hope you learned a lot about this EQ, and remember, any questions you have, write them in the chat right now, or leave them in the comments once this live stream ends. I just want to thank you guys, give you a huge shout out, because you guys are amazing. You guys really support me, and are amazing. So leave them in the chat, and thank you guys for everything. Any questions you have, if I log off, leave them in the comments and I will get back to you guys. Alright? And I just want to, before I go, I just want to tell you guys that every Friday I post a new video. So every Friday there's a video coming out, guys. So sometimes I do miss a Friday, but I always post videos on Fridays. So make sure you guys are subscribed and turn on post notifications so that you guys see those videos, because I do a lot of mixing, recording, and if there's a video you guys want me to make on mixing and recording, let me know in the comments or in the chat right now. Also, every single Thursday, if you guys haven't heard of Sessions Live, I'm now doing Sessions Live on Thursdays at like 2 or 3 o'clock. And also, make sure you guys follow me on my Twitter and my Instagram, because on my Twitter and Instagram, I send out a message every single day of what is coming up on my channel. So make sure you guys go follow me at Golden Productions on Twitter and Instagram, and also follow my Facebook page on Golden Productions, because there I do post a lot of stuff and I do post the videos there too. Alright? So guys, go follow me on my social medias, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, because there you'll be able to actually contact me too, and I post everything that is coming up. Alright guys, thank you so much for being here. Anybody that just wants to write something in the chat now or anything, let me know. And leave the comments down below and give the video a big thumbs up if you enjoyed it and you learned a lot. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next live stream next Wednesday. Remember to follow me on my social medias, because I will be posting the time when I am live there. Alright, see you guys in the next live stream. See you guys then.